All right. So this new immigration pilot program in Ontario, this REDI thing,
Yeah,
lots to unpack here, I think.
definitely. Lots of moving parts, for
Okay.
sure. It's called REDI, stands for Regional Economic Development Through Immigration. And
Okay, so right off the bat, I'm
it
thinking,
launched just this month,
oh,
actually.
wow, so we're really early on this.
Yeah, yeah, January 2nd it launched, and it's going to run until the end of the year, December 31st.
Okay, so I have to admit, whenever I hear anything about like immigration, my mind immediately goes to all the paperwork,
Oh, yeah.
the forms, the bureaucracy of it all.
The requirements?
Yeah, help me see the people part of this.
Absolutely. At its heart, REDI is really about people.
Okay.
Skilled workers. To be more precise, actually,
Yeah.
it's designed to attract up to 800 of them
Right.
to fill these big labor shortages in more rural and northern communities in Ontario.
So we're not talking Toronto, we're not talking Ottawa.
No, not the big cities, no.
We're going more off the beaten path here.
Exactly, exactly. Think Lanark, Leeds, and Grenville,
Okay.
Sarnia-Lambton and even Thunder Bay. And it seems like they've chosen these regions pretty strategically. Each one has its own specific needs. And they think attracting these skilled immigrants is like a way to address those needs.
Okay, so what are those needs? What makes these specific places stand out?
Well, let's look at Sarnia-Lambton as an example.
Okay.
They've got a huge petrochemical industry. It's booming.
Yeah.
But they're facing a real shortage of chemical engineers
Yeah.
and just skilled tradespeople in general.
Oh, I see.
Or take Lanark, for instance. It's actually seeing a lot of growth in tourism and hospitality, but they really need chefs. They need hotel managers, skilled service workers, things like that.
Ah, so it's not just like a general labor shortage. It's very specific, very targeted.
Right. Specific skills gaps.
Absolutely, that are
Uh,
holding these places back.
Exactly. And it's not just about helping those businesses grow. It's really about strengthening the community as a whole.
Hmm.
You know, when businesses thrive, they create more jobs, they generate more tax revenue. It contributes to a better quality of life for everyone.
Right. I'm starting to see the ripple effect here.
Yeah.
But how does REDI actually work? I mean, how do these workers, how do they even find these places?
So REDI works under this program, this OINP, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, this lets the province select immigrants based on their specific needs. So think of it like this. Imagine a province saying, hey, we need more nurses in Thunder Bay.
Okay. Yeah.
And they can actually go out and pick qualified nurses who want to come to Canada,
Yeah.
but specifically to work in that region.
So they get to be a little bit more selective.
Exactly.
Okay, so Ontario can make sure the people they're inviting in have the skills they need most in that particular spot?
Precisely.
Got it.
And to do that, REDI uses 3 existing OINP employer job offer streams.
Streams, okay. I like that. Break it down for me.
Yeah, sure. So it's all about really connecting the right people with the right opportunities, right? So the first one, this is the foreign worker stream.
Okay.
So imagine somebody, let's say a welder, with like 2 years of experience in Germany. They want to move to, let's say, Sarnia-Lambton, contribute their skills there to the booming petrochemical industry.
Okay, so that's someone with solid experience who wants to move to Canada.
Exactly. They've already got the experience, the chops. They're just looking for the opportunity. What's next? Well, you got the international student stream. So think of a student from India. They just graduated from this awesome engineering program at the University of Waterloo.
Great school, yeah.
Yeah, amazing school.
Hmm.
They could use this stream to get a job at a cool tech company. Let's say in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, it's actually part of the REDI program.
So it's a nice way for these international students who've already studied in Ontario
It's a transition, yeah.
to stay and keep working.
Exactly. And then the third one, this is the in-demand skills stream. This is the one about urgent needs, So let's say a rural community in Leeds and Grenville needs, I don't know, more early childhood educators.
Oh, okay.
They could use this to attract someone, let's say from the Philippines, who's got years of experience, but maybe didn't study in Canada.
I see.
They've got the skills, but they need the pathway.
So this is about recognizing those valuable skills exist all over the world, and maybe they just need a little help getting to where they're needed most.
Exactly. But keep in mind, these are just, examples.
Right.
There are specific requirements, of course, for each stream.
Of course, yeah. Okay, so what are the must-haves? What do they absolutely need to know if they're thinking about applying?
Well, first and foremost, you got to have a real job offer
Okay.
from an employer in one of the 4 REDI regions.
Okay. So you can't just like bounce around from region to region.
No, no, it's not like,
Not committing.
it's got to be full-time, permanent.
We're putting down roots.
Exactly. You got to be serious about it. And it's also got to align with a specific list of in-demand occupations.
So there's a list.
Yeah, there's a whole system they use.
Okay.
It's called the NOC tier. So it's like if you're let's say, a registered nurse, you'd fall under NOC tier 0, which basically means management, right? A
Cool.
chef would be under NOC tier 3, skilled trades.
So right kind of job, and you're serious about Ontario. What else?
Well, there's also wage standards, of course. You got to be able to support yourself, contribute to the local economy. Like in Lanark, a chef needs to be making at least $40,000 a year. In Thunder Bay, an early childhood educator, $35,000 at least.
That's helpful. It gives people a realistic sense of what to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, some streams have, even more specific requirements.
Okay.
Like the foreign worker stream might need you to show you've got like 2 years of experience doing the thing.
Okay.
For the international student stream, well, you got to prove you actually graduated, right, from an eligible Canadian institution.
Makes sense.
And for anything that's regulated, like nursing or engineering, you need the licenses. You need the right to work.
Right. You can't just say, hey, I'm skilled, and that's it.
No, you need the papers, the credentials, the experience. But yeah, each stream has its own quirks. You really got to deep dive into the specifics if it seems like a good fit. It's all online.
Awesome. So we covered the why, the how, the who. Now I want to get into the impact. What could this mean for Ontario?
That's where things get really, really interesting.
Oh, lay it on me.
This isn't just about filling jobs, right? This is about a much bigger transformation.
All right. I'm intrigued. What kind of transformation?
Well, just looking at the economic projections, they're predicting a possible increase in Ontario's GDP, up to like $100 billion over the next 5 years, just from integrating these skilled workers.
Wow. That's not just a boost. That's a game changer.
Yeah.
How do we get from bringing in skilled workers to that kind of growth?
Think about it. When a region has the skilled workforce it needs, businesses can expand, innovate, create more jobs.
Oh.
Productivity goes up, more tax revenue, stronger economy overall.
Chain reaction.
Exactly. But it can't be just about dollars and cents, right?
Right. You're right. There's got to be more to it.
REDI's impact, it goes way beyond that. More diverse communities, more vibrant communities. They bring their families, their cultures, new perspectives.
I like that it's like adding new colors to a tapestry.
Yeah. And it's not just about attracting them. We got to make sure they feel welcomed,
Yeah.
supported,
That's a good point. It's more than just like matching a skill with a job, right?
Right.
What are some of the challenges? What do we need to figure out to make this thing really successful?
Well, one of the big ones is making sure these communities are really ready to welcome newcomers,
Right.
right? We need to think about things like affordable housing, language training, support services, all that. I read one article, actually, about the lack of affordable housing in some of these rural communities. That could be a real problem, especially for families.
Oh, yeah. If you've got kids, if you've got, a whole family coming over.
It's a huge factor. And it's not just practical stuff, right? It's about creating a social environment that is welcoming and inclusive, understanding between longtime residents and newcomers, breaking down those biases, those prejudices that might be there.
Absolutely. Recognizing that this diversity is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Exactly. REDI has the potential to be like a model for immigration, for doing this right. But it's going to take everyone working together to make it happen.
So what can people do? What can our listener do to help make this work?
Well, first of all, just be aware of it, learn about it, see how it's playing out in your own community. There might be volunteer opportunities, supporting local businesses that are hiring through the program. It all makes a difference.
Grove that, yeah.
And if REDI is something that's directly impacting you, maybe you're an employer, maybe you want to apply, this is just the tip of the iceberg,
Just the beginning.
Dive into those sources, really read them, do your research. There are resources out there that can help you.
It's like a call to action, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't just listen, do something.
REDI is not just a government program, This is about people. It's about communities. It's about positive change. We all got to be a part of it.
It's that move from awareness to action, from understanding to actually doing something about it.
Yeah. But you know what? Before we wrap up this part, I want to leave our listener with one final question, something to think about.
Okay, hit me.
So we've talked about the benefits, the challenges, what people can do. But here's the thing. What happens after those 800 skilled workers arrive?
Ooh, yeah, I see what you're getting at. It's one thing to attract them, but what happens next? How do we help them really thrive, really become part of their new community?
Exactly. We got to think long term. How do we create an ecosystem where they can build careers, raise families, really contribute?
So it's more than just them assimilating, it's about integrating,
Exactly.
finding that space where they can keep their own identity, their own culture, but also feel like they belong.
And that's going to require a change in thinking both from the communities and the immigrants themselves, embracing diversity, fostering dialogue, creating those connections.
It reminds me of those articles about like successful integration programs in other provinces. What were some of the things they were doing?
Well, they were doing things like they had these mentorship programs, connecting newcomers with people already established in their fields.
Oh, nice.
Not just guidance, but breaking down social barriers, like a built-in support system.
That's huge, especially if you're in a new place, trying to navigate a new job, a new culture. That can be overwhelming.
Definitely. They also had language training that went beyond the basics. They had programs that helped them develop the skills they needed for their specific job and to participate in the community, advocate for themselves.
That's smart because language is more than just words. It's understanding the culture, making connections, feeling confident.
You got it.
Like you said, it's a two-way street.
Exactly. Communities need to be welcoming, but immigrants need to be proactive. Learn about their new home, get involved, contribute their talents.
Building bridges.
Exactly. This goes beyond just REDI. It's about Ontario, about Canada as a whole.
Absolutely.
But before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a challenge. Don't let this conversation end here, okay?
Okay.
Take what you've learned, check out those sources, ask yourself how you can help make Ontario more welcoming, more inclusive.
What a great way to wrap it up. We've gone deep on REDI, the goals, how it works, the potential, the challenges. We've talked about the human stories, the big picture of immigration.
But most importantly, you're not just a spectator. You're a part of this. You can shape the future of Ontario, a future that really depends on all of us working together.
What a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us.
Keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, keep those questions coming.
So we've kind of set the stage. We know how REDI works, who they're trying to attract. Now let's talk impact. You were talking about a transformation earlier. What exactly do you mean? What could this program do for Ontario down the road?
Well, if you look at the economic projections, they're pretty amazing, actually.
Okay.
Integrating these skilled newcomers, they could boost Ontario's GDP
Okay.
by like $100 billion
Yeah.
in the next 5 years. And that's if they focus on the fields they already have experience in.
100 billion. Wow, that's a serious impact. But how does like bringing in skilled workers, how does that turn into that much economic growth?
Well, think about it. When a region have the right people with the right skills, businesses can grow, they can innovate, create jobs, and then that means more productivity, more tax revenue, a stronger economy overall.
It's kind of like a chain reaction. You fill the gap and then all these good things start happening.
Exactly. But it's not just about, the money.
Right. There's got to be more to it.
REDI's impact, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
You create more diverse communities, more vibrant communities that come with their families, their cultures, new ways of looking at things.
I like that. It's like adding all these new colors to a tapestry.
Yeah.
Making it richer, more interesting. I imagine you could even get new businesses, new cultural exchanges, just a more dynamic workforce overall.
Exactly. And it's about making them feel like they belong. Giving them opportunities to do well. It's not enough to just attract them. We have to support them.
That's a great point. It's more than just matching a resume to a job description, right?
Right.
What are some of the challenges, the things we need to get right if this is going to work?
Well, for one thing, we have to make sure these communities are actually ready to welcome these new folks.
Okay, yeah.
Thinking about things like affordable housing, language training,
Right.
Support services to help people get settled. I remember reading this one article. It was talking about the lack of affordable housing in a lot of these rural areas.
Yeah.
That's going to be a big problem, especially for families.
Yeah, if you're moving a whole family.
Huge problem. And it's not just the practical stuff, it's about the social environment.
Yeah.
Making it welcoming, inclusive, helping people understand each other, breaking down those biases and prejudices that always seem to pop up.
Absolutely. Seeing this diversity as something positive, not something to be scared of.
You got it.
Yeah.
REDI has the potential to be like the gold standard, the model for how to do immigration right. But it's going to take everyone working together.
Okay, so what can people do? What can our listeners do?
First things first, learn about REDI. See how it's working in your community. Maybe there's some volunteer opportunities, ways to support those local businesses that are hiring through the program.
I like that.
And if you're like directly affected by REDI, if you're thinking about applying or you're an employer, this is just the beginning.
Just scratching the surface.
Dive deeper, read those articles, do the research.
It's a call to action.
Absolutely. This is about people, about communities.
Oh.
Positive change happens when we all get involved.
It's about moving beyond just being aware, right?
Yeah.
Actually taking action, doing something.
Before we move on, though, I do want to leave our listeners with one final question.
All right, let's hear it.
So we talked about all these benefits, right? We talked about challenges. We talked about what people can do. But here's the thing. What happens after those 800 skilled workers show up?
That's a good question. It's one thing to get them here, but how do we make sure they actually do well? How do we make sure they become part of the community, not just live here, but really thrive?
Exactly. Yeah. We got to think long term, right? How do we help them build their careers, raise families, really contribute?
So it's more than just them assimilating. It's about them integrating.
Exactly.
Finding that balance where they can keep their own identity, their culture, but also feel like they belong.
And to do that, well, we all need to think a little differently. The communities, the immigrants themselves, we need to embrace the diversity, really talk to each other, build those connections.
It makes me think about some of those articles we looked at, the ones about other provinces and how they're doing integration really well. What were some of the key takeaways there?
Well, one thing that kept coming up was these mentorship programs. They connect newcomers with people who are already established in their field.
That's cool.
Not just guidance, but also a way to break down those social walls, like a built-in support system.
That's huge, especially in a new place. New job, new culture. That can be really overwhelming.
For sure. And the language training was interesting. They didn't just focus on basic communication. They had programs that helped people develop the specific language skills they needed for their jobs. To be able to really participate in the community, to speak up for themselves.
That's smart, because language is about more than just the words, right? It's about understanding the culture, the nuances. It's about building relationships, feeling confident.
Exactly.
That's a two-way street.
Exactly. The communities have to be open and welcoming, but immigrants have to put themselves out there, learn about their new home, get involved, share their talents.
Building bridges.
That's the key.
And this goes way beyond RDI. This is about Ontario, about Canada as a whole.
Absolutely. So here's what I want you to do, listener.
Okay.
Don't stop thinking about this just because our conversation is over.
Right.
Keep learning. Keep digging into those resources. Ask yourself, how can I make Ontario a more welcoming place, a more inclusive place?
I like that. So we really went deep on REDI, the goals, the mechanics, the benefits, the challenges. We talked about the stories behind the numbers, the bigger picture of immigration.
And now, you're not just listening anymore. You're part of the story.
Yeah.
You can help shape the future of Ontario. And that future, it really depends on us working together.
What a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Keep learning, keep exploring, and until next time, keep those questions coming.
All right, so what happens after those 800 skilled workers actually get here?
That's the big question, right? We can attract them, sure. But then what? How do we make sure they, actually build a life here? Become part of the community, really.
So we're talking about more than just fitting in, right?
Yeah.
It's about integrating.
Exactly, yeah. It's about finding that sweet spot where they can, keep their own identity, their culture, but also feel like they really belong here.
It makes me think of those articles about integration programs in other provinces. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
Well, a lot of them were doing this cool thing with mentorship programs. They pair newcomers with experienced people in their field.
Oh, like a buddy system.
Yeah, exactly. It gives them guidance, helps them break into those social circles, like a built-in support network.
That's going to be so helpful, especially when everything's new, new job, new city, new culture. It can be overwhelming.
Absolutely. And the language training was interesting too. A lot of these programs, they went beyond just basic communication. They were helping people develop those specific skills they needed for their jobs.
So not just, hello, how are you, but the technical terms, the jargon.
Yeah, exactly. So they can really participate, advocate for themselves.
That makes a lot of sense, because language is about more than just words, right? It's about understanding the culture, feeling confident.
Absolutely. It's about building those connections.
It's a two-way street, though, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like the communities have to be welcoming, but the immigrants, they have to be proactive too.
Exactly. You gotta put yourself out there. Learn about your new home, get involved, share what you bring to the table.
It's all about building those bridges, right?
Mm.
Finding that common ground.
Exactly. And this goes way beyond just REDI. This is about Ontario's future, about Canada's future even.
Absolutely.
So listener, here's what I want you to do. Don't let this conversation end here.
Hmm.
Keep thinking about this. Go back to those resources.
Right.
Really dig in. Ask yourself, what can I do to make Ontario a more welcoming place, a more inclusive place?
Love that. We've covered a lot of ground today. The goals of REDI, the nuts and bolts of how it works, the potential benefits, the challenges. We've even talked about the human side of it all, the big picture of immigration.
And now, you're not just listening anymore. You're part of the story. You can help shape the future.
And that future, it really depends on all of us, working together, understanding each other, being open to what's possible.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into REDI.
It's been my pleasure. Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and until next time, keep learning.